Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's Dr. Alessandro. Please like and subscribe. In this video, we're going to be talking about new grads and their expectations when they enter a practice or a DSO, depending on what they choose to do. Now, what's going on is this, and I've been hearing more and more of this online, that new grads are being asked to do more and more hygiene, that is more and more cleanings. So what's the scoop? Why is this happening? What's going on? Because I do see this online and it's repeated in a number of different groups and forums. And so I do want to address this. So new grads, this really is for you. Number one, there is a hygienist shortage. As much as we don't like this, as much as we'd rather this not be the case, there is definitely a hygienist shortage. There are simply not enough hygiene schools and not enough graduates of these hygiene schools to replace the number that went into retirement or changed fields as a result of the pandemic. So like it or not, this is reality. So no matter what you may think or feel about this, there are less hygienists, and believe me, I wish there were more because they're great. I really need them. There are times where, for example, we may have one that is out ill, and it's very tough to find folks to fill in. So it's a challenge. But new grads, you are very likely to be asked to do anywhere from a little bit of hygiene, so some of the cleanings, to a lot of the cleanings, depending on the practice circumstance. So this is reality. You may not think this is what you signed up for, but contractually you may be obligated to do that. And I'm sure that compensation-wise, it's not something that you're looking forward to, but this is going to be your reality, like it or not. I have to tell it straight, and that's how it is. So you may be asked to do a lot of hygiene, especially, for example, there is a DSO somewhere on the West Coast that has put a 2-year hiring freeze on hygienists. Apparently, the demand is so great, the supply is so short, their hourly wages have gone up so much that it's less expensive to have new graduates doing cleanings than it is to have hygienists doing cleanings. And this may become more widespread. In fact, I'm going to predict that it could very easily spread to other parts of the country and maybe even become widespread at one point. So new grads, get ready to do some cleanings, maybe even a lot. Again, these are things you might not want to hear, but I have to tell it to you because this is what I'm seeing. Now, some practices, private practices, have new graduates, new folks to their practice doing a few more hygiene appointments because they want them to get to know the patients. And it's actually a smart way to get to know patients if you're in a small private practice. I think it's a great way to get to know patients. And to do some hygiene should be actually expected. Some. I don't mean the bulk of your day, but I do mean like at least minimum of 1 or 2 appointments, maybe even up to 3 to 4 when you're starting out. That way you get a feel for folks. You get an understanding of what the area is like. I think that's a smart thing, as long as it doesn't become persistent. That is, 2 years later, you're still doing half a day of hygiene, because that's probably not a good business model. So the other thing is that there are some practices out there, believe it or not, that don't have hygienists at all. Some practitioners do all of their own hygiene. So that's simply the model that they choose. Most people would choose otherwise. They don't believe that that's efficient. I personally tend to believe that it is better to have hygienists doing the hygiene because they are simply better at it. Let's face it, I believe that that's the case. So they simply know how to treat the tissues better. They can better educate the patients because that's what they've been trained for. And they're trained, I mean, they're highly educated for that. So I think that they do a fantastic job. It's invaluable to have hygienists in the practice, but some practices may not. So you may end up in a practice like that. You may have to get used to that as well, depending on your circumstance. That said, what do I see for the future for you guys? Well, I see that this shortage will persist. This is not going to be something that will go away in a year or two. This is probably something that may even be in the decade trend. Depending. Unless we get a whole bunch of hygiene schools opening and dozens of more hygienists, hygiene students entering these programs, maybe even really hundreds and hundreds, I would probably prefer. I think that this is going to be a shortage that may be very long term. So it's something that I hate to say, get used to it, but you might have to get used to it. Is this what you signed up for, new grads? So you have to start asking yourself, and maybe start telling the people that are interested in dentistry, if indeed it becomes a multi-decade trend, hey, is this what you signed up for? Because if you are doing the majority of your day of hygiene, how much dentist experience with different restorative, not just basic stuff, but your implant stuff and other things, maybe procedures you want to do like endo, crown and bridge, removable, whatever you happen to like best. You may not be getting nearly as much experience as you wanted for or hoped for, and so that might actually be stunting your career growth depending on the case. So these are things to think about. So new grads, again, just to kind of summarize, there are fewer hygienists out there. I'm not going to say crisis mode, but it's kind of tough right now. And this may be a long-term problem. So if you're asked to do a lot of hygiene, I would not be shocked. I would say buckle up and just prepare for a longer ride with this, because those are the conditions right now in our profession. So that said, thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you're all staying well and healthy.